And then you started working for 2008 at some point.
That's it?
Yeah.
It's illuminating this already.
Excellent.
Brilliant.
Yeah, please.
How'd you get involved?
I do remember meeting you in Bristol with Ben Dixon.
Yeah,
That's just, I can't remember what you, early 2000s.
2000, yes.
Yeah.
Real early.
And then it was like, you were knocking on the door and, we locked Matt up and said, give him a job.
Yeah, well, I think it was maybe even Diggle.
Oh, Diggle,
yeah, it was knocking on it.
Oh yeah, Diggle and Bishop on again.
So you didn't have to deal with Bishop?
I did try to deal with Bishop. He rejected me many times on the grounds of not being 2000 AD enough.
I still think this. I'm with.
Well, correct he was.
Yes.
But
I
yeah.
will get to that.
Yes, we will. I'm just saying, how many times did Paddy get rejected by David Bishop?
No.
None.
Well,
How many times did
He
you
was
get
two
rejected by
2000.
David Bishop?
I think mine is countless. He did, to be fair, at least he did actually give me a job, because that would have been gutted if he didn't actually give me a job. To be fair, he was right. I was not very good at that.
No, I was crap.
No. I still think you're not very good.
So back on track, how did you first get involved?
Well, it goes back to me, I think it was my mum's 40th birthday, dragging me around. This little child, bored out of his mind, and I think we went into a newsagent and I saw this dinosaur eating a person. I thought that looks cool, and that was my first copy of 2000 AD, and then I was hooked. And then I spent the next several years thinking, I really want to do this. And then luckily the editors were going, no, you're not going to do this. So yeah, I just used to, it was in the old days when, I think it was in Russell Square in London, and I just used to phone up and just say, I'm going to be in London on Friday or Thursday, can I come into the office and have a meeting? And they went, yes. And then they would give you a sample script, and just, you had to go off, draw a few pages, bring it back, and then they tell you weren't good enough. But, but the thing is that I make it sound that like they were just harsh, but they actually did give you criticism. They sort of said, you need to work on either your storytelling or your body work or this and that. They just sort of, they gave you little hints. So each time you were getting a little bit better. Admittedly, like, I think when I really first wanted to try and break in was around the time that Bisley, who's not here, had done these marvellous paintings, and then they wanted everyone to paint. I could barely draw, let alone paint. So I did have a stab at the painting, but that was, yeah. And I've never bothered again.
Realising now I should have probably said more.
What more than I was born and then I got a job? Anyway, so yes, and then eventually they get me tomorrow. So.
Should we come back to you?
I had my chance, I believe.
Take twice as long.
Okay.
And you didn't get lots of
I didn't get lots of
feedback.
rejections.
You said, welcome, come on in.
Straight.
He's not improved though.
No.
The things he had to do.
Pummeling on it.
It was the late 90s, and as the 90s was, there was a lot of painted artwork in it. I thought, I've never tried 2080, I'm just not a fit. And then I saw artists like Simon Fraser and I think Frank Whiteley in there. So I thought, I'd give it a go. And then I obviously called David Bishop on a good day. And he said, oh, here's a sample script. And I thought, oh yeah, I'd love it. See what you can do with it. I drew it. Obviously told him it only took a week, but it took a month. And then I saw Cam Kennedy have the original one come out about 2 months later. I just thought, oh, that's depressing. But, I was off with a sinister extra straight away then, so it was alright. I sort of got in.
Oh, so you got so you both started on
yeah,
Sinister Dexter?
Yeah, that seems to be the trial.
Yeah. Okay. Yours wasn't Sinister Dexter,
No.
was it? What did you get first?
Future Shop.
You got Future Shop.
Yeah.
That's even harder.
Yeah. Future Shop and then ABC Warriors.
Wow.
That's not bad.
To be fair though, it is nicer if you get like an established character because you sort of know.
Yeah.
Like even if it is something that they're not going to give you drugs straight away, but you get to know that.
That was my second job.
He's not helping himself. Henry.
Well, yeah, because I'm a bit older, not by very much, but it was 93, I think.
1993?
Yeah, 93? Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
I think
Not that time.
what it was, I was working for Marvel UK, and they went bust, I think, because of
Oh, what did you do?
problems. I think I was 22, yeah, and they went bust. I think I did the last episode of Death Head
Death Head.
2.
Oh, okay.
And I did that before it all folded up. And then I thought that was my chance gone. I thought that was all sort of. But what happened was 2000. That was the time when there was the big exodus. So all the big major names went to the States.
And were they doing
And
Crisis at the same time as well?
Yeah, I think that was sort of late 80s Crisis. But there was definitely like a huge hole, and they couldn't fill it. You know, they needed artists, and so Marvel UK had they had the names of a list, and I think John Tomlinson, he looked at the list and sort of like just cherry picked loads of names, and he ended up phoning me up and saying would you like a job, but like a couple of months after it all folded up. So I was very, very lucky. And
Get
You bet, yeah.
successful as it
I was
goes.
just, someone just phoned me up and said, would you like some more?
He wanted you.
The
Yeah,
Marvel,
they wanted
the Marvel
me.
UK
So I
thing,
did.
the Marvel UK thing's interesting as well.
Yeah.
I think, like, I remember talking to Dan Abnett about it, because obviously the first thing I did was his Sinister Dexter, but he'd already been working for like Marvel, like not only UK but like Marvel like US and things before he came to do Thou, and it was a bit like sort of quite interesting route. But I went to the Marvel UK offices first, and they did. Like there's always this myth.
What did you draw?
Nothing. I just went for. I went for a job, and yeah, they went bust before I went. But there was always the myth in the States that there's like this big ball pen where all the artists and Stanley would be standing on tables acting out. But Marvel UK actually had a ball pen, but I don't know if anyone really used it. I went in there and there were all these like drawing boards set up, and
It's a ball pen, that's what they call it.
Yeah.
If you work in house.
yeah,
Oh, I didn't realise that.
yeah. But in like,
Did everyone know that?
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
So what was your first published book in 2018, Henry?
Oh, that was the Road Trooper. Friday. Yeah.
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 So I don't think I was probably the best suited for that, because it needed like I was too cartoony, and it needed something grounded, like
Can I tell you a story from last night? Clint Langley told me he went into the office when I think he was either looking for work,
Yeah.
and the editor at the Shine showed him your Road Trooper, and Clint was going, "Oh my God, this is so good."
Oh, it really was.
Was it? He was impressed.
Yes, yeah, cool. So, can you walk us through your typical creative process? So, from blank page to finished artwork, what mediums do you use? Like, how long does it take you?
Well, I came out of the womb.
Start again.
My turn.
Are we going? Yeah, that's it. We're going from the thumbnail breakdowns. Yeah, my thumbnail breakdowns are very, very rough and stupid, and like worse than stick figures. But yeah, getting the script to that sort of initial rough stage, it's all about just knowing where everything is going to be put when you get to the big proper page. So that's just like pencil and highlighter for if there's any bits that get flagged up in the script that I have to definitely make sure go onto the page, like Dred's helmet, I'll highlight that, just make sure. Then move on to the page, and that's generally done just with pencil. Start off with a 2H, pretty much rub it all out so you can't even hardly see it anymore, and then go in with sort of harder pencils. scan that into Photoshop and colour it all up with ghastly pink colours. Or I try and do a bit more proper painting these days because it's more spontaneous. You don't know what's going to come out of a brush, whereas Photoshop can get a bit yawny sometimes. Anyway, that's me.
The method of rubbing it out, because David Finch does that. So he does this really intricate drawing, and then he just rubs it out. And then I'm thinking, you put in all this effort. But I suppose you can.
It's not intricate. It's pretty rough.
Right.
But yeah, if you just sort of get the rubber on its side and
You just
push
lose
over
enough.
it, then it's kind of like you're seeing things coming through the mist, and you go, that bit worked, that bit didn't work, and then basically my process is just correcting mistakes, correcting mistakes, and that's why I sort of quite like doing it all myself, because it's just another chance to fix what you've balls up.
Ben, are you similar or?
Well, I used to be, so I've sort of slightly changed the method. So the old method was I would get the script, read it first time, do nothing, just read it. And then I would almost go back again and then read it again. So in my head, I already had, I sort of knew roughly what characters and things were there. So the picture's already starting to paint in my head of like where things should be. And then as I would usually print the script out, because we're sending them digitally, but I usually print them out because it's better to read them on that anyway. And then I used to make little thumbnails by each panel description, and then I would sort of like try and do a little thumbnail, which can be no more than sort of like a couple of inches, just to rough layout. So I used to do that because I thought that was helpful. Now what I tend to do is I just draw it straight onto the computer. It's just but it's still rough. They are just still thumbnails. So I do the same. Read the script, read it again, and then start doing thumbnails on computer, because then I can go, actually I can make this panel a little bit bigger, this one a bit smaller, make sure I can leave enough room for word balloons, because that is always the killer. You can do some beautiful artwork, but you don't leave enough space. Yeah.
Nonsense.
Yeah, but that's where it just goes bang, big word balloon over Tred's head. So yeah, I want to make sure that. So I'll do that as a thumbnail just to, as a rough. But then I go and draw traditionally. So I go back to a piece of paper with my roughs, and I will draw it traditionally. Pen and ink, pencils, then inks, and then I scan it in and tidy it up a little bit. Maybe you see the wonky eyes then, so you can you can like go, so slightly move them back into line, and then I colour it digitally. So it's a process. So it goes from digital to traditional to digital.
How about you guys?
Similar to Ben, you print out the script, and I just scribble all over the script constantly. Anything that kind of crops up straight away, I'll draw a little, like 3 different versions of the same panel, see which works. And then once I sort of reread it again, I draw out my normal thumbnail sketches. And then it's just a matter of, like, you might have to compromise. You might have a great panel, I think, yeah, but it won't fit on the page if you've got 7 panels on there. So you think, oh. So you just find, like, working out a puzzle, trying to see what works best. And then once I'm sort of happy with my sort of thumbnails, some days I might leave a gap and just wait for inspiration to hit me in about 3 days' time and hope it comes. But then I'll draw straight onto the artboard then, A3, all in blue pencil, tighten things up in HB if I need to, then I'll just import it and then scan it in, and off it goes. So it's fairly
Do you ever
straightforward.
do your own colouring?
Only for illustration stuff, but not for comics. It's like drawings out there.
Yeah.
Colour. How to colour.
Actually, one thing that is worth doing is because it's really easy to miss. So when like a script comes through, it might say Dredd looks stern and thing, but then if you actually look, because if you read it once and then don't really concentrate, and then you come back and go, oh, Dredd looks stern, so you can just do a big stern head. But then it might say, Dredd dialogue, and then it might say Judge Anderson dialogue, and you think, oh Christ, I've got to put Anderson in as well. But I've just got the stern.
Yeah.
I once overheard Frank Whiteley saying the most important thing to do is just read the script, read it again, read it again, read it again, keep reading the script.
Yeah.
And so that's why.
Yeah, you can avoid. I did once miss out a panel once, and then went back, and it was like, oh, I just managed to.
Henry.
Yeah, I can't really add much more to that. I like that idea of the, you know, reading the thing. What did you say before then about like?
Well, reading the script sort of first, and then
Yeah.
So I used to read it just through once,
Okay.
and then like the story is
Yeah,
in my mind. So I know like the very last
Play
panel.
like a film in your
Like,
head.
so for example, it's a dress story, and the big reveal at the end, it's Mean Machine has come back, or whatever. In my head, I've got, okay, I know we're getting to that point, and you can, if you've already got that head, because I mean, there are things sometimes you get scripts where you get, let's say you get part 3, but you might not get part 4 until for a while, and there might be something really, really integral in part 4 that you needed to know in part 3, and that's not anyone's fault. That's just those that things happen. You know, I won't sort of name any names. I know a friend of mine, people on this panel know, like he did this great, beautiful image, and there was something in the background, and then he got the script for the next one, and the thing in the background needed to be much closer, and he was a bit like, oh, if I'd known, and then it looks like he hasn't planned it well enough.
Yeah.
But I don't want to give any into
When I did the last Road Trooper, I think I've got the first half of the script, and then the second half like a few months later. So there was things I had to sort of design which I wasn't sure was going to appear again.
Yeah.
So I didn't know how much planning to put in there.
Yes.
Thinking, oh, and in hindsight, I wish I'd known the end of the story. I would have planned it out a little differently.
Yeah.
I did a little background character just mooching about with a Crab t-shirt. Crab's the band that I'm in with, Si Davis, and next issue he's like the main character for the rest.
Nice bit of self-promotion. What you want is the front cover.
Well, yeah.
But, and sometimes Pat Mills used to sort of change or cut the dialogue. You know, he looked at the final artwork and he said, okay, he'd edit it, and they said that's not needed. So you might have left space.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, I don't need it then. But
big dead space.
Should we talk about your process, Henry? Sorry.
I think the only thing that I can add really was I get the script and break everything down. What I've been doing recently is trying to not have a panel where you've got more than one balloon or more than one caption. So I kind of count the captions and panels and go, right, each one deserves its own panel. So you kind of like, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, it can add up to like 14 panels or something. That's the only problem.
You fool.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
That's quite an interesting method, actually.
Yeah.
It does explain sometimes, because you have like, you either think like, oh, has John been a bit hard with you with like his 14 right panels, but you always make it work.
It's deceptively easy, because you don't have to think about like 2 people talking to each other, and also you're actually taking a snapshot of one moment in time as well. So it's kind of
Rob's really impressed with some of the Dread stuff that you've done. He's really on board of how you've sort of broken up his sort of panel descriptions, and he said,
well,
he trusts you. And
Rob's sort of he's hitting it out of the ballpark. That's cliche. He's been doing some amazing work.
But we
Well,
are
you
quite
said that sort of you got in touch with him and that was your idea, and it's really changed the look of what he saw. So that's really interesting.
And so it's sort of bouncing back. So he's given me more weird stuff to do, and So
I mean, we are quite lucky because no one has ever rigidly sort of said, you know, because we might get a script and it says 6 panels, and sometimes you can go, well, I could knock these down to 4 or 5, and sometimes you go, actually, I need an extra panel or 2. But, you know, I can imagine some editors out there going, well, it says 6 panels, do 6 panels, you know. So, but we are sort of given the freedom to tell the story.
Yeah, and you can trust that the Matt and the letter are going to know, oh, he's popped an extra.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask a question, sorry, I was interested. What do you think, what is your favourite thing to draw, and what's your least favourite thing to draw?
I mostly like drawing psychedelic space action nonsense. Anything with crazy, gloopy colours and psychedelic madness. So what I don't like to draw is anything normal or people with anatomies.
Yes, they are annoying.
Yeah, they are annoying. Like, because a lot of my stuff, like especially like Death Cap and that's all out in the Cursed Earth, where everyone's got like 5 noses and that, and, you know, so you don't have to worry about the anatomy so much. You just sort of, there's a shape, plonk some eyes on it, it's fine.
Proportions be damned.
Yeah, but I would struggle with like the script set in an office.
Well, a friend of mine probably going to say something similar, and I was talking to Colin McNeil this morning about this, and he said, I don't want to draw anything contemporary. Yeah, because you know, I've done that, where you sort of draw scripts and it's got people riding bicycles and you think, oh no spokes. And, yeah, it's just like give me a hoverboard or something. Yeah. It's just it's things like that. It's sort of real, you know, unless I suppose unless you're doing things like, you know, lots of people sort of, you know, would love the real world and doing a Punisher where you draw with the gun precisely, you know, but I like making stuff up as well.
I did quite enjoy, I forget which one it was, the Pitch or Carry the Nine in the latest Big Dread book. Some of that was quite officey, but I did enjoy it. It was quite a nice little break, but just the sort of clean lines, empty rooms, sort of stuff added to the emotions, I think. So that was all right, but no more.
So you don't want to do Dread doing paperwork?
No.
Patrick?
I'm probably a bit opposite to Boo. I quite like drawing like people are probably the thing. Just you know, grew up drawing things like superheroes. So you kind of enjoy doing the anatomy and trying to figure things out. I do prefer making stuff out like sci-fi. It's like when you have to sort of research a lot. You know, you don't get paid to research like uniforms for military things or historical things. So it's so much quick and easy, as you say, just a hoverboard. You know, even like buildings, you know, you just little squiggles just turn into buildings, and that's fine. I think the last Aquila book had to draw some like Minotaur type things and horses. You know, it's a lot of smoke at the bottom when they run in. You know, I do a proper Rob Liefeld, no feet.
No feet, no hooves.
Well, I'm staying with horses, because I asked Rob to actually draw to actually add a horse. Because I thought, well, would it be cool for Judge Dredd to ride a horse?
And it wasn't.
It's so cool in your mind, you think it's going to be amazing, and then you draw it and you think, oh, what?
I can't remember which one of you I was talking to yesterday. I was saying Mike Dory, you all know Mike Dory, loves drawing horses and sits gleefully telling the other artists, so you don't like drawing horses, why would you not like to draw horses?
I think he's the only person that does it.
I spent quite a large portion of last night drawing a reverse centaur. It's like a horse front and like old man's legs trailing behind. It got quite erotic.
It's on the stall if you want to come and see it.
You don't want to see it.
It was his fault.
Right. Going back to what Paddy said, you said about like not doing like you don't get paid to do research and things. So I hope I'm not talking that term, but I remember Simon Colby telling me when he worked on one of the war stories with Garth Ennis, Garth was when actually you've drawn the turn-ups just slightly a bit too small. They need to be a little bit. So you had to go back and turn the turnips.
In the first Blighty Valley, I drew the rifles that they had. I can't remember the name of them now, but about a couple of inches too short, so I had to make them longer. So I had to go back, you know, traditionally and just
We all
wide
prefer
out.
a couple of extra inches.
I know, I was waiting for that. I set you up.
Anyway, I enjoyed yesterday.
Probably.
So, characters. Just a few questions about characters. So, are there any particular characters you love illustrating more than others? And what makes it exciting? You've got a fave.
Johnny Alpha's the best.
Yeah.
It has to be said. And he's great to draw. And yeah, he's one of the characters when I was a little nipper, and I think I saw him on the cover of a Star-Lord first, and I was like, what the heck is that? You know, just all sorts of crazy shapes, so I've just been totally hooked on him ever since. So yeah, I'm not really going to get to draw a heck of a lot of Strontium Dog, I wouldn't imagine, but you know, any chance is always good.
You never know.
You never do know. They sort of let people have a go at little one-offs.
I still would love to see your Strontium Dog Elephant Man.
It is available to view.
I've only ever seen the cover.
Yeah, that was good fun.
How did that come about?
Rich Starkings of Elephant Men fame. He's a big Strontium Dog nerd, 2000 AD nerd, and so yeah, he asked Matt Smith if we could do a little Elephant Men Strontium Dog crossover for the Thought Bubble anthology, and it was one of these big like newsprint things. So that was bloody great fun to do. Ticked all my boxes.
Yeah, I'm sort of on the same thing. I love Strontium Dog. It's always my. But I love Dredd, but Dredd is he's Jobsworth. Whereas Johnny was like cool, it's just like. But Dredd is really good fun to draw. But I always had a theory with things like Strontium. I always thought that Carlos drew like helmets and things that no one else could draw. So only really he got the gigs.
It is tricky.
And it's the same with like Road Trooper. That helmet. It's just like those guys were making sure that they had job security because they made it really difficult for anyone else. But yeah, like Johnny and.
So you've got to draw Johnny now.
I have, yes, which is yeah, I sort of like TikTok. The only thing I haven't drawn, which I always really wanted, was Robot Hunter. Oh. I love Robot Hunter. Like such a cool. Although you read the first ones, and maybe some of it's not quite appropriate for today. Things like some sort of politically incorrect stuff. The occasional punching women in the face and using Chinese slurs.
It's not dated well.
Yeah.
Paddy.
Well, I got to draw Dredd and Road Trooper, so Johnny Alpha is again one I haven't been able to draw. And even if it was just a one-off strip, I've done Midden Face a few times years ago, yeah. But I enjoyed Savage. I felt comfortable drawing Savage, which I drew so many books about. So it was just like, when you draw Dredd, sometimes you kind of, if you haven't drawn him for several years, you go back to Dredd, you kind of seize up a bit, you go, how am I going to draw him this way? But with Savage, I kind of found my way a bit how I wanted to draw. So I kind of felt really comfortable. But yeah, Johnny Alpha is the one I'd probably like to do, or who else is out there? I wouldn't be any good on Nemesis.
Oh God, no. The only person here is. Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, you probably do.
Yeah.
I'd like to have a little go. It's quite horsey.
What is a reverse nemesis?
So Henry.
Yeah, I like. As you say, sort of like the world of Strontium Dog. I think it's pretty good. But I think Durham Red, I wouldn't mind. Doing this.
Back off. When I burnt, because I severely scalded myself when I was drawing the first Durham Red, I had one of these Ponzi taps that kicked up boiling water, and I decided to just put my hand straight under it by accident and burnt my hand, and meant I couldn't draw the rest of Durham Red. And Matt was obviously needed to replace me for the last few episodes, and they replaced me with Lee Carter, which was sort of good. It was a good fit, but I nearly suggested you because I thought the dichotomy of like the two different styles worked quite interestingly.
Oh yes, me too.
Just too engrossed.
I know, yes, but you are very interesting and handsome men, so so how much freedom do you have when you're designing characters? Do you tend to work closely with the writer, or do you get more freedom than that? And do you enjoy that process of drawing not the main characters, but sort of the appearance characters, for want of a better
Yeah, it's a good question, because I think you've got to liaise with the writer really, and try and work out what the attitude of the character is going to be, and like if they need to have 7 ears, you've got to obviously factor that in. But with Void Runners, the main character in that Shikari. They sort of designed themselves really, because I was thinking, well, it's an alien, so this is going to be a good opportunity to like do all sorts of crazy stuff, and they came out quite normal. But it's because it's as if the character just came out the way they wanted to be. I didn't have a lot of say in it, which is quite weird. There you go.
Yes. I mean, obviously, apart from incidental characters or, you know, maybe villains and things, I haven't really designed... Well, that's probably not true, because I redesigned Durham. So that was quite interesting. But that, so when we redesigned Durham, so originally Alec sort of pitched a new Durham Red.
Whose idea was the Ray Reardon?
Oh, that was mine. Yeah, yes. Well, so what the first thing Alec wanted to do was sort of take it back to more the bounty hunting, and he really wanted to make it like the costume more practical. And obviously the original Carlos one was, you know, she's got a weird sort of like fuzzy hair and you know, she's sort of just...
I know! Criticism!
And, you know, and she's sort of wearing, you know, she's just got high boots and like a thong and
it's awful to wear. Awful to wear.
Oh, it's like babushka as well. It was such a good kid. I just like the babushka, and I thought of that.
But it felt...
know the babushka outfit.
But it sort of, like, yeah, he wanted it to make it a lot more practical. And the only other version was the Mark Harrison one, where she's literally just wearing a dress with strap. You know, it's just, you know, bits of... So he wanted to get completely away from that. So, yeah, then I was just handed it over, and, you know, we wanted that sort of... Strontium Dog is essentially a Western, so you want to sort of like capture that feel. So I tried to sort of bring in that Western feel and do almost like what George Lucas did with, you know, like Han Solo and that sort of, you know, the Mos Eisley world. So that was sort of fun doing. But yeah, you got to play with the hair. But there's certain things, you know, she had to have red hair that had black, you know, a black chunk in it. But yeah, so yeah, I went for the little V and. Yeah, so that was fun to do, but yeah, we are just given freedom. Then yeah, we just sort of send it sort of to Matt and just cook it. I mean, he will sort of like, there are things he doesn't like that he will say it, but most of the time we are sort of left to do our thing and we're sort of trusted.
Can't really trust you.
I haven't redesigned any new characters, but things like incidental characters. Pat Mills would always give you an actor reference or a politician or something that he wants that look of. So things like the Blighty Valley soldiers, so they described enough. I think I only had to swap one. One was a bit too gruff, so I swapped one of the characters over there. But you know, I think Joe Colquhoun used to be able to get paid for research when he did Charlie's War. So, and that's how he had time to do it. So. But
that would have been hard work.
Stuff with Rob at the moment, I'm just trying to work out the character that he's kind of written about. So I think he's sort of like a Clive, an older Clive Owen like character. So I'm just trying to nail that at the moment. But
I always thought when he was younger you'd make a good Johnny Arthur. Sorry.
Just the name of Johnny
Jimmy
Arthur.
Nail. Jimmy Nail is my
crocodile shoes.
Yeah. He's got a crazy...
I always thought Richard Ashcroft from the
yeah.
You know, the hair and...
Jimmy Nail, yeah.
Jimmy Nail.
So Jimmy Nail.
Come on.
Pat Roach.
Johnny
Jimmy
Wolf.
Nail's got a sexy accent and it's a nose like that. Sorry.
Henry.
Yeah, I did Zombo, so
Oh, I love
I think it was going all right. The design work, but I think when it really clicked was having the red copies.
Yeah.
So cameo copies. As soon as that was, it was like, yeah, that's it.
Did you just randomly throw that in? Did you just?
Randomly threw that in. Yeah, it wasn't Al didn't write it. So originally, it was supposed to be like electrified copies. So I did it all in metal and you know, like a superhero sort of pants,
Can you-
and it just didn't work. It just didn't look right.
Can you confirm that Zombo is the dead cameo singer? Is this now canon?
And then there was Shikara. So that was another one that I think I had a book of the artist for the Alienized. What's his name? Geiger. Yeah. So I had a book of it open, basically. It's sort of like I love that. that was pretty much easy. But and Produce Vex was a weird one because I was asked to do it. I sort of sat down and ready to do a sketch, and it's the first sketch I did. And it's like, what's that? Who's he? And it was really weird, just like you were saying. But
yeah,
sort of like
I didn't realise that's how they were going to look.
Yeah,
they have to be that.
Yeah, we just realised that's it.
I do think that, like with an alien character,
Obviously never done enough drugs.
you've actually, you've got to show emotions and stuff. And if you've got like a big walrus head or something, you can't show like love and happy emotions and stuff. So I think that's why she ended up being quite normal.
Were you a big fan of Without an Alley?
Yeah, more when I was a kid, I think. Yeah.
Because he was really good at all that alien.
Yeah, definitely. I really loved the Dead script that he did about Flint going off into the underworld. That was amazing.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. So I'm going to go back this way now. So I'm going to start with Henry and then end up with Boo. So,
I haven't got time to think.
No, I can kick back now.
Assuming you have actual time to read comics now for pleasure,
Yeah.
are there any new up-and-coming creators or illustrators that you are really thinking, right, they're going to be not the next best thing, but who are you enjoying reading?
Or would like to work with?
Well,
like
I
to
do
work with,
like. I've got to come up with the names now. There's Warwick.
Warwick Fraser Coombs.
Yeah, Warwick. Yeah, he's amazing. He's incredible.
He did Tank Girl, didn't he?
Yes, he did, yeah.
Lovely Tank Girl.
Yeah, and there's a few others as well. I'm sure I'm going to be reminded of new artists and things. And who's the new guy in 2000D? There was someone else that was recently come up. But yeah, the names just go straight over.
Is there a writer you have that you'd like to
I don't really want to work with. Well, people have said, Alan Moore. I would hate working with Alan Moore because his scripts are like so long.
Essays.
You wouldn't know what to do.
Isn't that like the
my brain is so puzzled.
Isn't that like the Comic Museum in Brussels, and they had a page of V from Vendetta, page of art, and they had the script next to it, and it was like a fax machine, it was like down, actually on the floor.
So if I was to work with Alan Moore, I'd tell him how to write.
Never work in comics again.
You know what? We asked Ian Gibson that question once, and we said, "How do you cope with big scripts?" He went, "I don't read it."
He told me that when we were in France once. I think he sort of fell out with DC because he said, I kept saying bloody script rubbish. Bloody rubbish. I just drew what I wanted. Brilliant. Excellent.
Patrick.
Current artists, I like Chris Samney. I think he's doing the Batman and Robin at the moment. I like his storytelling. Things like that. Pepe Larraz, I like a lot. I know he's like the Olivia Cocal, Stuart Immonen sort of school. But I prefer his stuff in black and white when I see his art when he posts it online. Then when it's coloured, it's kind of too much. But they're the sort of two I really. I love John Paul Leon. He was probably one of my favourite artists, and I'm sad when he passed away. But because I think I just read Wintermen so many times when I was working on Savage, and just Christ, I'm just going to give up. Depressing, but I try and pick up what I can. I end up just looking at the pictures more. Yeah. So I don't care which writers I work with.
But I mean, yeah, they all. I mean, I don't know if they're necessarily new in ways, but you know, someone like Sean Gordon Murphy, who even recently was posting, he'd love to do some dread.
He's done some nice dread,
And so,
hasn't he?
yeah, and like because he can draw vehicles, and the thing is, but he's like our Pi, in the fact that he can draw vehicles in motion in a way that so many people can't. It's such an art.
It's like keep birds in aviation going.
Yeah.
It's playing just interesting.
And it's just like, yeah, it's like it's one of those things that could be so dead, but it's so alive and so full of action. I've never seen like Pi and Sean Gordon Murphy on vehicles are just the best.
And it's all bicycles.
Well, we get to see, I bet.
His horses are shite.
Yeah.
Boo.
I don't really read comics anymore.
Get out.
No, I think it's when you're working though, and you're doing it.
Well,
I
yeah,
read
exactly.
AD, that's the only comic that I read. But that's kind of, I just read AD most of my life. And then when I got together with Jen, she's a massive nerd. And so I sort of dipped my toe, a bit more heavily into the American comic scene. And then we moved to Eastbourne, which is a culture vacuum. Where it was when we moved. It's getting better. It's getting better now, but there's no comic shop. Yeah, but I think the last non-2000 AD comic that I bought was some of the new Conan stuff, which is fucking amazing. But it's amazing because it's exactly like the really old.
It's the guy, the artist who's drawing just like John Buscema.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's amazing.
It is really good, and the scripts are amazing as well. And it's just like old school golden era Conan, but without the races and Jim
Jim. And I think it's like the Tours or something. Francis de la Tour.
She's a very handsome woman. And we're nearly out of time, but if anyone has any burning questions, we've probably got time for a couple. Anyone got any questions? Shout you then. Nobody got any questions?
I've always wondered throughout 2008, 40 years, do you all go to an office or work, or do you all work at home? I don't quite know the concept.
Yeah, we all work at home.
Has that been like that for years? Because I always imagined, because I was in the 80s, you all went to a big building and you all sat there throwing, paper at each other. Drawing and stuff. And then I see the guy who's in charge and he said, no, it's a load of bollocks. Go back and draw it again. Or just do it at home now.
We're all, because we're all sort of dotted over as well. Because I mean, even in the old days, it's like they would hire artists. Like in the very early days, they'd hire artists from like Spain and things. So they were getting translated scripts and things. But they had people had studios. People shared. Like Steve Dillon and John.
Mick McMahon.
I think. Talking to Ant Williams, he said it was Brian Hitch, Toby Braithwaite, a few of them kind of shared studio space in Marlborough, UK, like the late 80s. And so some of them moved to London and they used to go into the office and sort of work there.
Well, didn't Mike Collins and David Roach, they shared a studio and Dylan Teague was there.
Black Dog.
Yeah, he was doing all the...
I was going to say Costa.
No, but the thing is, because I think...
So it varies.
It probably was cheaper to rent a place together, but also it's just that camaraderie, and just having fun together, going in, just because you are on your own all day, and people
probably shared kit as well.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, there's a great.
Writer-wise, John and Pat used to write together, and then John and Alan sort of been.
Well, I think like the Think Angel story. I think Mick was under real pressure, and with Gibbons, he was literally throwing Gibbons the pages, and Gibbons is doing the solid blacks in it, and that's just like something you can, help out. And it's, but we don't have that because we're all sort of like dotted around a bit more. And the other thing is, in the old days, you would take your art in, and you would deliver it. And so I think there would like be Friday drink ups and things. So everyone would be dropping off their artwork, and so you had Bolland and Gibbons and John. You had them all just rocking up and then dropping their artwork off and getting drunk for the next 12 hours, and and then back again. I mean, John's got some good, like John Higgins has got some great stories when he shared a studio with Steve Dillon. He sort of said, he said Steve Dillon was super fast, but he was also super lazy at times. So he would go, he would have,
last minute.
Like last minute, yeah. So he'd have 4 weeks to draw an issue of Preacher or something, and he'd spend 3 weeks just drinking and yabbering with John, and then go, oh Christ, I've got a week to draw all 20 pages, and he'd just bang them out over. And then, but John said he was just always like absolutely exhausted for like the week afterwards, and then would just chill.
But then that's why, because you all work at home pretty much.
Yeah.
That's why cons like Lawless are really, really good, because you guys get to hang out together and swap stuff.
And then drink for 12 hours.
And drink for 12 hours, and then very shaky in the morning. But yeah, so thank you. That's a really good question. That's a good question. Huh? Yeah. I think we're out of time now. Yes, our only favourites. So yeah, so thank you to Boo Cook, Ben Willsher, Patrick Goddard and Henry Flint.